I never believed in fate. Not the kind peddled in those glossy American rom-coms where chance encounters lead to forever. Life, to me, was a series of calculated risks. Exchange programs, job hops, the endless grind of proving you belong somewhere bigger than your small-town roots in Ohio. That's how I ended up in Seville, Spain at 28, with a backpack stuffed with resumes and a heart armored against disappointment. The city was a fever dream of orange trees and Moorish arches, a place where the air hummed with guitar strings and the ghosts of poets who'd loved too fiercely. But on my first night, jet-lagged and hollow, I wasn't chasing poetry. I was chasing a bed. The Craigslist ad. Yeah, even in Spain we Yanks cling to our platforms, read like a lifeline. Room for rent in Triana. Quiet artist seeks compatible soul. No drama, please. Sarah's photo showed a woman with a crooked smile, blonde hair catching the sun like California gold, standing in what looked like a sun-drenched studio cluttered with canvases. I'm Sarah, her email said. Moved here 2 years ago from Portland. Let's grab coffee and see if we vibe. Vibe. That word felt like home already. We met at a cafe off the Guadalquivir, where the river slithered lazy under bridges strung with lanterns. She was smaller than her photo suggested, petite with laugh lines that crinkled like invitations. 30, she said. A painter who traded rainy Oregon for Andalusian heat. Seville gets under your skin, she told me over cortados, her blue eyes steady. It's messy, passionate. Like flamenco stomps and sighs. I nodded, spilling my own mess. The breakup back home with the guy who'd ghosted me after 5 years. The scholarship that landed me here to teach English at the university. I'm Samantha, I said, extending a hand that felt too big next to hers. Call me Sam. And yeah, I'm all about the mess. As long as it doesn't involve exes showing up unannounced. She laughed, a sound like bells in the breeze, and just like that, the room was mine. Her apartment was a third-floor walk-up in the gypsy heart of Triana. Walls splashed with her abstracts. Swirls of crimson and indigo that bled into each other like unspoken longings. My room overlooked a courtyard where neighbors gossiped over laundry lines. The scent of paella wafting up like a promise. That first week we danced around each other like cautious flamenco partners. Shared breakfasts of tostadas and jamon. Evenings where she'd paint and I'd grade papers by the light of a shared lamp. You're too structured, Sam, she'd tease, flicking paint at my notebook. Loosen up. Life's not a syllabus. I tried. God, did I try. Seville was seduction incarnate. The way sunlight pooled in plazas like liquid gold. The pulse of castanets from hidden bars. The way Sarah's voice softened when she spoke of her art. As if each brushstroke was a confession. One night, after too many glasses of Rioja on the balcony, she leaned over the railing, her shoulder brushing mine. You ever feel like you're running from something? She asked, the city lights fracturing in her eyes. I swallowed, the wine warm in my veins. Every day. But here. It feels like I might stop. Her gaze lingered, and in that suspended breath something shifted. A spark, electric and unnamed. It started innocently enough, the way these things do in stories we tell ourselves to make sense of the fall. A brush of fingers over shared olives at dinner. Her head on my shoulder during a late-night screening of Before Sunset on her ancient laptop. The dialogue about missed connections hitting too close. What if we got it right? She murmured as the credits rolled, her breath feathering my neck. I turned, our faces inches apart, and the kiss happened like gravity. Soft at first, tentative, then deepening with the urgency of two people who'd been parched too long. That night we didn't sleep. Not in the biblical sense, no, this was Spain and we honored its rhythms. We talked until dawn. Tangled in sheets that smelled of her lavender soap and my borrowed courage. She confessed her own ghosts. A marriage in Portland that had crumbled under the weight of silence. A wife who'd chosen safety over fire. I came here to burn, she said, tracing patterns on my arm. To feel alive. I told her about the boy who'd made me question everything. The way I'd always felt like an outsider in my own skin. Too tall, too ambitious, too queer for the cornfields of home. You're not an outsider here, she whispered, pulling me close. You're home. In the mornings that followed, Seville became our canvas. We'd wander the Alcazar gardens, her hand slipping into mine amid the myrtle hedges, tourists none the wiser. She'd drag me to flamenco shows in smoky Tabernas, where women with kohl-rimmed eyes stamped their heels like heartbeats, and I'd catch her watching me more than the stage. You move like that in bed, she'd joke later. her laughter dissolving into kisses that tasted of salt and sangria. It was romantic, heady, the kind of love that American girls dream of in Paris, but hotter, more visceral, like the Sirocco winds that swept in from Africa, stirring dust and desire. But love, I've learned, is a thief in the night. Steals your vigilance, leaves you exposed. A month in, Sarah started vanishing into her studio for hours, emerging with shadows under her eyes and canvases streaked in furious blacks. Inspiration, she'd say with a forced smile, but her touches grew fleeting like smoke. I chalked it up to artists' moods, buried myself in lesson plans about Hemingway's Spain. Ironic that irony was our shadow now, lurking in the corners of our shared space. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the Giralda's golden spire, I found her on the balcony, phone clutched like a lifeline. "Everything okay?" I asked, sliding my arms around her waist. She stiffened just a fraction, but enough to chill me. "Yeah, just old friends." Her voice was a tightrope. I pressed gently, too gently maybe. "From Portland." She nodded, but her eyes darted away, toward the river where barges floated like forgotten promises. That night in bed she turned her back, murmuring about deadlines. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, the first crack in our foundation spiderwebbing silent. The weeks blurred into a tense tango. She'd pull me close at markets, bargaining for figs with that infectious grin. But alone she'd retreat, sketches piling up like unanswered questions. I threw myself into the university, charming undergrads with tales of Route 66, but my thoughts circled her like vultures. Was it me? The distance from home? Or something she'd buried deeper than her ex-wife's memory? It culminated on a Friday, the air thick with the promise of Feria de Abril's echoes. Though it was months away, Seville pulsed with that eternal carnival spirit. I came home early from a staff mixer, arms laden with bottles of Tinto de Verano, imagining her surprise. The door was ajar, voices spilling out like wine. Hers low and laced with laughter I hadn't heard in weeks. And another feminine, accented with that Pacific Northwest lilt. "God, Sarah, you look good. This place suits you." I froze in the threshold, heart slamming like a bass drum. There on our sofa was a woman, tall, auburn-haired, with the kind of effortless beauty that turns heads in coffee shops. Elena, she introduced herself later, but in that moment she was a ghost made flesh. Sarah's ex, the one who'd chosen safety. And from the way their knees touched, the way Sarah's hand lingered on her arm, this wasn't a casual drop-in. "Samantha," Sarah said, standing too quickly, color draining from her face. "I didn't hear you come in." Elena's eyes flicked over me, appraising, then softened into something pitying. "This must be the roommate." The word landed like a slap, roommate. As if the nights we'd mapped each other's scars with fingertips meant nothing. I dropped the bottles on the counter, glass clinking like accusations. "Actually, yeah. The roommate. Nice to meet you." My voice was steel, honed from years of swallowing hurt. Elena excused herself soon after, murmuring about catching a train back to Madrid, but not before pressing a card into Sarah's palm. "Call me. We have unfinished business." The door clicked shut, and the silence roared. "What the hell was that?" I demanded, whirling on her. Sarah's shoulders slumped, defeat etching lines I'd never noticed before. "She's in town for an exhibit. I didn't know she'd show up." Lies hung in the air, thick as the humidity. I grabbed my jacket, storming out into the dusk, the Triana streets closing in like a labyrinth. How had we gone from fire to this, embers choked by ash? I walked for hours, the Guadalquivir mirroring my turmoil, its waters black and unyielding. By midnight I was back, soaked from a sudden downpour, pounding on the door she'd locked behind me. She opened it barefoot, eyes swollen. "Sam, please. Let me explain." But explanations are just stories we tell to delay the truth, and as she pulled me inside, the rain outside drumming our requiem, I wondered if we'd ever find our way back to the beginning. The next morning dawned bruised, purple clouds clinging to the Sierra Morena like regrets. Sarah was already in the kitchen brewing café con leche with mechanical precision, her hair tied back in a messy knot that screamed sleepless. I hovered in the doorway, towel drying my curls, the chill of wet clothes from last night still seeping into my bones. "We need to talk," I said, the words landing flat, devoid of the passion that had once fueled us. She slid a cup across the table, steam curling like question marks. I know. Elena. It's not what you think. But her eyes, those blue pools I drowned in, betrayed her, flickering with the guilt of half-truths. We sat, the ceramic warm between my palms, and she unfolded it all in fragments, like a painting revealed layer by layer. Elena hadn't just been her wife. She'd been her anchor, the one who'd convinced her art was a hobby, not a calling. The divorce had been mutual, Sarah said, but laced with barbs, accusations of selfishness, of chasing whims across oceans. She showed up yesterday because she's here for a gallery opening. Wanted to apologize, I guess. Clear the air. I sipped bitter on my tongue. And the knee touching? The cards? That's air clearing. Sarcasm was my shield, Midwestern sharp. She winced, reaching for my hand, but I pulled back. Sam, I love you. This us, it's real. Elena's the past. But pasts don't knock unannounced. They burrow waiting for cracks. The days that followed were a fragile truce, Seville's vibrancy mocking our strain. We'd force smiles at the Mercado de Triana, haggling over chorizo as if normalcy could be bartered. At night, she'd initiate with tentative kisses, her body a map I navigated blindfolded, seeking the landmarks of trust. But doubt is a persistent shadow, lengthening with every unanswered text on her phone, every late-night inspiration session that left her distant. I threw myself into work, charming classes with anecdotes of jazz in New Orleans, but my lectures rang hollow, echoes of a harmony I'd lost. One afternoon during a rare free period, I wandered into the real Alcazar, seeking solace in its labyrinthine gardens. The air was heavy with jasmine and the trill of fountains, courtyards where queens had once whispered intrigues. I sat on a marble bench sketching idly in my journal, not art like Sarah's but words. Fragments of us, the way her laugh could uncoil my spine. A woman nearby, an older local with silver-streaked hair, caught my eye. Amor es como este jardín, she said, gesturing to the tangled vines. Bellísimo, pero fácil enredar. Love is like this garden, beautiful but easy to tangle. I nodded, throat tight, wondering if we'd pruned too late. Back home the tangle tightened. Sarah's exhibit was approaching. A solo show at a boutique gallery in the Santa Cruz quarter, her abstracts finally deemed worthy by the city's fickle tastemakers. This could change everything, she confided one evening, vulnerability cracking her voice. I wanted to celebrate, to be the pillar she deserved, but Elena's specter loomed. Invitations had gone out, and yes, one to Madrid. It's professional, Sarah insisted. Closure. Closure. The word mocked me as I helped her frame canvases, my fingers smudged with the same indigo that had once stained our sheets. On the night of the opening, Seville glittered like a jewel thief's prize. Lanterns strung across alleys, the air alive with castanets and the sizzle of churros. I dressed in a simple black dress, heels that clicked like accusations on the cobblestones, Sarah radiant beside me in emerald silk that hugged her curves like a lover's promise. The gallery was a cocoon of murmured Spanish and clinking glasses, walls alive with her work. Storms of color that captured the city's soul, the raw stomp of duende, the sigh of siestas. Collectors circled, nodding appreciatively, and Sarah bloomed under their gaze, her hand warm in mine. You did this, I whispered, pride swelling despite the undercurrent of unease. Then Elena arrived. She swept in like a nor'easter, auburn hair swept into an elegant chignon, a red sheath dress that screamed intention. Hugs were exchanged. Too lingering, my American eyes noted, and soon they were deep in conversation by a crimson vortex titled Reckoning. I hovered at the periphery, nursing a cava, chatting with a wiry curator about Basquiat's influence on European abstraction. But my ears strained. Missed this fire in you, Elena was saying, her voice a velvet hook. Sarah laughed, deflecting, but her cheeks flushed, not just from wine. By midnight, as the crowd thinned, Elena cornered me by the bar. She's something, isn't she? She said, eyes sharp as sherry. Sarah always did burn brightest when she thought no one was watching. I forced a smile, Midwestern politeness my armor. She's incredible. And happy here. Elena's gaze softened, pitying again. Is she? Or just running? We all run, Samantha. Until we can't. I excused myself, heart pounding, and found Sarah in a back room, staring at an unfinished piece. A swirl of blues bleeding into gray like a bruise. Let's go home, I said, but she shook her head. Elena wants to grab a nightcap. Old-time sake. You don't mind, do you? It's nothing. Nothing. The word ignited the fuse. Mind? Sarah, this is the second time she's waltzed in like she owns you. My voice rose, echoing off the white walls. She turned, eyes flashing. She's my past, Sam. Why can't you trust me? Trust. It shattered then, glass fine. Because your past is flirting with your present, and I'm the idiot standing in the middle. The argument spilled into the street, gallery-goers averting eyes as we stumbled into the labyrinth of Santa Cruz. Words flew like daggers, my insecurities laid bare, her defenses crumbling. You think I don't see it? I hurled. The way you light up for her like I was just a placeholder? She grabbed my arm, nails digging. You're not. But Elena. She gets the parts of me I hid. The fear. You make me brave, Sam, but sometimes brave hurts. We parted under the moon's indifferent gaze, me storming back to Triana alone, her silhouette vanishing into a cab toward Elena's hotel. The apartment felt cavernous without her. Walls mocking me with half-erased sketches of our faces intertwined. I curled on the balcony, the rivers murmur a lullaby of loss, and wept for the woman I'd become, fierce, foolish, utterly hers. Dawn brought no apologies, only a note slipped under the door. Need space. Back soon. Love S. Space. In a city of siestas and stolen glances, it felt like exile. I wandered aimlessly that day, past the cathedral's brooding spires, into the orange groves where fruit hung heavy as unspoken words. By evening resolve hardened. I wouldn't beg. But as the sun bled into the horizon, a knock echoed. Sarah, disheveled, eyes haunted. I went to her room, she confessed, collapsing into my arms. But I left. 'Cause it wasn't her I wanted. It was you. Relief crashed over me, salty as tears, and we clung there. The night's betrayal, a scar we'd learned to trace. But scars itch, and in the quiet hours I wondered. Was this mending or just another layer of paint over the rot? The betrayal festered, subtle as Seville's summer heat. Sarah threw herself into follow-up interviews, her success a bomb, but our intimacies grew perfunctory. Kisses like obligations, touches seeking reassurance more than fire. Elena's emails arrived, forwarded transparently. Proud of you. Drinks in Madrid next month. Sarah deleted them, but the doubt lingered, a third presence in our bed. One humid afternoon during a faculty retreat in Córdoba, I met Lucia, a colleague sharp-witted with olive skin and a laugh that cut through the Mezquita's echoes. We bonded over tapas, her stories of Andalusian folklore mirroring my own tales of Appalachian ghosts. Love here is like the wind, she said, fanning herself. It comes fierce, then shifts. Her hand brushed mine, accidental, but the spark was mutual, curiosity perhaps or rebellion against my heartache. Back in Seville, guilt gnawed. I confessed to Sarah over gazpacho, the cold soup mirroring my confession's chill. Nothing happened, I said. But I felt seen. Her face crumpled, mirror to my own pain. Is that what I don't do anymore? See you. We talked then, really talked, laying bare the fears Elena's return had unearthed. Her betrayal wasn't infidelity, but emotional drift. The pull of familiarity over the terror of new depths. Mine was the same, a flirtation born of hurt. In the vulnerability we reignited. Not with passion's blaze but embers coaxed to glow. We vowed therapy, local sessions with a counselor who specialized in expat hearts. Her office overlooking the river's bend. Amour requires tending, she told us in lilting English. Like these olives, prune the deadwood. We pruned. Date nights in hidden patios, letters left on pillows confessing daily gratitudes. Sarah's next canvas was dual-toned. My green eyes woven into her blues, a testament. But fate, that capricious bull, charged again. A letter arrived from Portland. Elena, gravely ill, requesting Sarah's presence. Just to say goodbye, the note read. Sarah's hand shook as she showed me. I have to go. For closure, this time real. I nodded, throat tight, driving her to the airport in a rental Fiat. The highway flanked by sunflowers nodding like sentinels. Come back to me, I whispered at security, our kiss tasting of farewell's edge. She did, 2 weeks later, hollowed but whole, clutching a small urn of Elena's ashes. She made peace, Sarah said that night. as we scattered them into the Guadalquivir from the Puente de Isabel too, the river accepting them like old lovers. And so did I. With her. With myself. In the water's ripple I saw our reflection. Tangled but enduring. Yet the climax brewed unseen. Sarah's fame grew. Galleries in Barcelona beckoned, whispers of a New York show. This is it, she said, excitement laced with fear. I cheered but envy crept. My contract ending, job hunts pulling me toward Madrid or back to Ohio. We'll figure it, we promised, but promises are paper and rain. The storm broke on All Saints' Eve, when Sarah returned from a networking trip flushed with offers, and a secret. Over mulled wine in a casetta remnant, she confessed. Elena's will. She left me the house in Portland. And I think I want to go back. The world narrowed to her words, the lantern light flickering like my resolve. Back? To what? The life that broke you. It's not breaking now, she pleaded. It's roots. Stability. For us. But her eyes held Portland's rain, not Seville's sun. Betrayal second bloom. Not a lover but a country. A past reclaiming what I'd thought was mine. The argument that followed was our most savage dance yet. No witnesses, just the empty apartment and the howl of a tramontana wind rattling the shutters. You invited me into your life here. I shouted, pacing the living room. Canvases trembling on their easels like startled birds. This was our chaos, our beautiful mess. And now you're trading it for what? A craftsman in the suburbs. Sarah stood her ground, petite frame rigid, tears carving paths through her makeup. It's not trading, Sam. It's building. Elena's death. It showed me I can't run forever. We could have a life there, gallery house, maybe even kids one day with a donor. Kids. The word hung absurd and aching. I'd never voiced it, but in quiet moments, I'd imagined a future laced with little feet pattering on Spanish tiles. Dark curls like mine mingling with her blonde. But Portland? Rain-slick streets and hipster cafes, where love simmers polite instead of boils. That's your dream, I said, voice cracking. Not mine. I'm not the picket fence type. She reached for me but I recoiled. Then what are you? The eternal wanderer? We can't build on sand, Sam. The door slammed behind me that night, echoing into the labyrinthine alleys where shadows played tricks. I walked to the Plaza de España, its bridges arched like accusations, the moat's water lapping at tiled provinces, Ohio mocking from afar. There under the stars pricking the velvet sky, I sank onto the steps, sobs racking me like fever. Love, I'd thought, was the antidote to loneliness, but here it was twisting the knife deeper. Hours passed or minutes, time blurs in grief and my phone buzzed. Sarah, a barrage of texts. Come home. Please. We can fix this. Home. The word dissolved me. By dawn I was back, the apartment bathed in milky light. Sarah curled on the sofa like a question mark. We didn't speak at first. Words were spent. Instead I brewed coffee, strong and black, and we sat in the steam's veil, hands entwined across the table. I love you, she said finally, voice raw. Enough to let you go if that's what you need. Let go. Humanistic mercy. The kind that poets pen but hearts resist. The days devolved into negotiation. Not with lawyers but souls. We attended more sessions, the therapist's office a neutral ground where we mapped the chasm. Sarah spoke of legacy, the house a canvas for our shared art. My writing desk in the sunroom, her studio overlooking evergreens. I countered with Seville's pulse, the life we'd woven from threads of chance. It's not just place, I argued. It's us here, raw, unpolished. Compromises surfaced. A year in Portland, trial by rain. Or splitting time, transatlantic lovers chasing planes. But beneath the logistics, the emotional undercurrent surged. Nights dissolved into confessions, bodies seeking solace in familiarity. We'd make love slow, deliberate, fingertips charting the landscapes we'd memorized. Whispers weaving vows against the dawn. You're my duende, she'd murmur, invoking that flamenco spirit of raw authenticity. I'd laugh through tears, pulling her closer. And you're my siesta. Rest in the storm. Yet doubt's tide rose. My visa loomed, expiration a guillotine. Job offers trickled. A tenure track in Barcelona, tempting with Mediterranean stability. Sarah's New York buzz grew, scouts emailing about transatlantic tours. We were drifting, currents pulling opposite. One evening after a failed compromise dinner, paella gone cold, we shattered again. I can't leave her ghost here, Sarah cried, gesturing to the river view. Elena's ashes are in the water, but her lessons are in me. Stability. Some. Roots. And I'm the weed you pull? I shot back, venom born of fear. She recoiled as if struck. No. You're the bloom. But blooms need soil. The metaphor hung, beautiful and brutal. I stormed out again, this time to a flamenco bar in the depths of Triana, where a troop of women, fierce, sweat glistened, stomped their sorrows into the floorboards. I watched, mesmerized, as a dancer with raven hair and eyes like coals channeled betrayal into beauty, her arms slicing the air like pleas. In her I saw us. Passion's price, the ache of release. Back home, Sarah waited with suitcases half-packed, hers for Portland, mine undecided. Decide, she said softly, no ultimatum, just truth. For you. I'll go either way. The humanistic core. Love that frees even if it fractures. I paced, heart a war drum, weighing oceans against heartbeats. Ohio called with tenure whispers, Barcelona with sun. But Sarah, petite, fierce Sarah, was the gravity. Dawn broke as I chose. Portland, I whispered, the word foreign on my tongue. Her face lit, relief flooding blue eyes, and we collapsed into each other. Kisses salty with resolution's tears. But choice isn't closure. It's a door cracked open. We sold the apartment swiftly, its walls stripped of our marks, the courtyard neighbors toasting with manzanilla. Via con Dios. Godspeed. As we boarded the flight from Seville to Seattle, hands laced across armrests, the Guadalquivir shrank below, a silver thread binding us to what was. Portland greeted us gray and green. The house a bungalow of warm wood and bay windows overlooking rhododendrons. Sarah's studio filled with light, canvases blooming anew, hybrids of Andalusian fire and Pacific mist. I sat up in the sunroom, words flowing freer than in years, a novel taking shape. Our story veiled in fiction. We adopted a rescue mutt, Luna, her wagging tail a metronome to our rhythms. Therapy continued via Zoom, the distance no barrier to growth. But reinvention aches. I missed Seville's heat, the spontaneous guitar serenades. Sarah pined for flamenco's stomp, her paint sometimes stiff with nostalgia. Conflicts simmered, my wanderlust clashing with her nesting. Small betrayals like forgotten anniversaries or eyes lingering on strangers. Yet each storm passed with dialogue, not daggers. We're not fixed, she'd say, tracing my palm. We're becoming. A year in, her New York show sold out. Critics raving about exilic passion. Me beaming from the front row, Ohio roots forgotten. Back home, over cider in our garden, she knelt. Not in proposal but promise. Marry me? Not for papers but us. I laughed, pulling her up. In Spain first. Then here. Dual ceremonies, dual lives. The wedding in Seville was intimate. Plaza vows under orange blossoms, Lucia as witness, the river bearing Elena's peace. Portland's followed in spring rain. Friends from both worlds mingling under tents strung with lanterns. No perfection but profundity. Love as verb tending the tangle. Years blurred. A daughter via donor, Isabella, with Sarah's curls and my green gaze, her laughter echoing both coasts. We split time now, summers in Triana, winters in evergreens, roots dual sprawling. Betrayals? Mere footnotes, lessons in forgiveness. The night that changed us, that invitation across an ocean? It birthed this. Not fairy tale end but humanistic arc, flawed, fierce, enduring. As Isabella chases Luna through Portland's leaves, Sarah sketches from the porch, I write beside her. Still glad? She asks, head on my shoulder. I kiss her temple, tasting home. Every damn day. Mess and all. In the end, love isn't the hook that reels you in. It's the line that lets you swim free, deeper waters calling. And we dive together.